The great hall of Nexus Prime stretched out like a metal cathedral, its walls gleaming under artificial suns. Representatives from 47 different species filled the curved seats, their voices creating a buzz that echoed through the vast space. At the center of it all sat 3 humans. Looking small and alone among the sea of alien faces, Ambassador Hyun-woo Kim sat perfectly still in his chair. His dark suit was clean and pressed, his hands folded neatly on the table before him. Next to him, Captain Nari Park wore her military uniform with quiet pride. Dr. Jin-Ho Lee, the 3rd human, took notes on a simple tablet, his face calm despite the storm of angry voices around them. The Vorthan Empire held the largest section of seats. Their leader, High Commander Veltar, stood nearly 3 meters tall. His 4 arms moved as he spoke, his voice booming across the hall like thunder. His skin was dark purple, and his eyes glowed yellow with anger. "The humans are a disease," Veltar declared, his voice cutting through the noise. "They spread from world to world like a virus. They call it peace, but we see the truth. They build weapons, they train soldiers, they prepare for war." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the Vorthan section. Their warriors nodded, their hands resting on the weapons they were allowed to carry even here. They had come to Nexus Prime. Ready for a fight? And they wanted one dot in another section. The Quillen Collective sat in perfect silence. They didn't need to speak out loud like other species. Their minds were connected, sharing thoughts instantly. Prime Intellect Crix served as their voice, a being that looked like a walking crystal with too many angles. "The human expansion follows no logical pattern," Crix said, its voice sounding like wind chimes. "Other species expand for resources or territory. Humans expand because they can. This makes them unpredictable. Unpredictable species are dangerous to galactic stability." The Murtai Federation controlled the trade routes that connected most of the galaxy. Trade mogul Mercian represented them, his long blue tentacles curled around his floating chair. His people valued profit above all else, and they saw humans as a threat to their business. "Human merchants undercut our prices," Mercian said, his voice smooth like oil on water. "They offer better deals, faster shipping, and superior technology. They disrupt the natural order of commerce. If allowed to continue, they will control all trade within 50 years. For 3 days, the accusations continued. The aliens spoke of human aggression, though humans had not started a war in over 200 years. They complained about human expansion, though humans had followed all galactic laws about colonization. They feared human technology, though. Humans had shared their discoveries freely with all species. Ambassador Kim listened to every word. He took no notes. He made no arguments. He simply sat and absorbed the hatred being directed at his species. Captain Park's jaw tightened whenever someone called humans violent primitives, but she said nothing. Dr. Lee continued taking his notes, recording every insult for history. The other species joined in. The Kethmari accused humans of being too emotional. The Verhan claimed humans were too individualistic. The Nexari said humans asked too many questions. Every complaint boiled down to the same thing: humans were different. And different was dangerous. On the 2nd day, Veltar presented a hologram showing human fleet movements over the past decade. Red dots marked human ships traveling between star systems. Trade routes appeared as blue lines connecting human colonies to alien worlds. "Look at this pattern," Veltar demanded. "They claim to be traders and explorers, but see how their ships move? Always testing our borders, always probing for weaknesses. This is not the behavior of merchants. This is the behavior of an invasion force gathering intelligence." The truth was simpler. Human ships followed efficient routes between trading partners. They avoided dangerous areas where pirates operated. They used established hyperspace lanes that all species recognized as safe. But when viewed through suspicious eyes, normal trade looked like military preparation. On the 3rd day, the aliens presented their ultimatum. The terms were harsh and humiliating. Humans would surrender all military vessels outside the Sol system. Human colonies beyond a certain distance from Earth would be abandoned. Human research into advanced technology would be supervised by alien observers. Human cultural practices would be reviewed and corrected to make them less individualistic, Ambassador. Kim finally stood when they finished reading their demands. The hall fell silent. Everyone expected him to argue, to negotiate, to plead for better terms. After 3 days of insults, surely he would lose his temper and prove that humans were as violent as they claimed. Instead, Kim walked to the center of the hall. His footsteps echoed in the sudden quiet. He looked around the room, meeting the eyes of representatives from dozens of species. Some looked angry, others looked satisfied. A few looked uncertain, as if they were beginning to wonder if they had gone too far. Kim's voice was calm and steady when he spoke. We came here hoping to solve our differences through talk. We believed that intelligent species could find common ground. We offered friendship, trade partnerships, and shared knowledge. We asked for nothing in return except the right to exist as we are. He paused, letting his words sink in. You have made it clear that you see us as a threat. You fear our expansion, our technology, our way of life. You want us to change who we are or face the consequences. Very well, we understand your position. The aliens leaned forward, expecting him to accept their terms or make a counteroffer. Negotiations always involved back and forth, compromise, and gradual agreement. That was how civilized species handled disputes. Kim's next words changed everything. Negotiations are concluded. Earth withdraws from all diplomatic relations with the Galactic Council. We will honor existing trade contracts until they expire, then sign no new ones. Our ambassadors will return home. Our representatives will leave your worlds. You will not hear from us again. The hall erupted in confusion. Veltar roared in triumph, believing he had won a great victory. Crix's crystal form flickered as the Quillen collective processed this unexpected response. Mercian's tentacles twitched with what might have been nervousness. Some representatives tried to speak, to ask questions or demand clarification. Kim ignored them all. He walked back to his seat, gathered his few belongings, and headed for the exit. Captain Park and Dr. Lee followed without a word. At the door, Kim turned back one last time. You wanted to know what happens when humans stop pretending to be harmless. Now you will find out. The 3 humans left Nexus Prime that same day. Their ship departed without ceremony, joining a small fleet of human vessels that had been waiting in the outer system. Within hours, every human diplomat, trade representative, and cultural attaché in the galaxy received the same simple message: come home, now. The aliens celebrated their victory. They had faced down the human threat and forced them to retreat. The galaxy was safe from human expansion. Trade would return to normal patterns. The natural order would be restored. They had no idea what they had just unleashed. In trying to cage a sleeping giant, they had instead chosen to wake it up. The silence that followed would prove louder than any declaration of war. The last human ships disappeared into hyperspace, leaving behind a galaxy that would soon learn the difference between humans who wanted to be friends and humans who wanted to be left alone. 3 months passed after the humans left Nexus Prime. The galaxy celebrated what they called the Great Victory. News broadcasts across dozens of worlds praised the wisdom of the Galactic Council. Children learned songs about how the alien powers had saved civilization from the human threat. High Commander Veltar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching his fleet approach the former human trading post at Kepler Station. Intelligence reports said the station processed millions of tons of rare metals each year. The Vorthan Empire wanted those resources for their war machine. Sir, we're receiving an automated transmission from the station, his communications officer reported. Put it on screen, Veltar ordered. A simple message appeared in basic galactic script. Property of Earth, trespassers will be ignored. Veltar laughed, his forearms spreading wide. Ignored? Let them try to ignore this. He turned to his weapons officer. Target their defensive systems. Sir, sensors show no active defenses. No shields, no weapons, no fighters. The station appears to be running on minimal power. This confused Veltar. Kepler Station had always been heavily defended. Human security forces had kept pirates away from the valuable mining operation. Now it sat in space like an empty shell, the Vorthan ships docked without resistance. Veltar led the boarding party himself, expecting to find humans hiding in the depths of the station. Instead, they found something far more unsettling. Nothing. The station was completely empty. Not abandoned, but evacuated. Every piece of valuable equipment remained in place. The computers still hummed with activity. Environmental systems maintained perfect atmosphere. But there wasn't a single human anywhere. In the command center. Veltar found the mining records. The humans had extracted every gram of ore from the asteroids in this system, then left it all behind. Warehouses held enough processed metals to build a fleet, just sitting there waiting. Tried to access their computer systems. Veltar ordered. His technical officer worked at the main console for several minutes before shaking his head. The interface won't respond to our biometrics. It recognizes that we're not human and locks us out. I could try to force access, but ... But what? The system warns that forced intrusion will trigger a complete data wipe. All records, all research. Everything will be destroyed. Veltar stared at the empty corridors around him. The humans had left behind billions of credits worth of infrastructure and materials, but they had taken the one thing that truly mattered: knowledge. Without understanding human mining techniques, the station was just an expensive shell. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. The Quillen Collective sent ships to investigate human research facilities. They found laboratories full of advanced equipment, but all the data had been wiped clean. Experiments that had run for years sat frozen in time, their results taken away by their creators. The Murtai Federation moved quickly to seize human commercial assets. Trade stations, shipping hubs, and distribution centers throughout their territory stood empty but intact. Mershon himself visited the largest facility, a massive space dock that could service 100 ships simultaneously. "Where are they?" he asked his aide, his tentacles curling with frustration. 50,000 humans worked here just last month. They can't all have vanished. His aide consulted a tablet. All human commercial licenses were canceled 2 days ago. Every human trading vessel has left Murtai space. All shipping contracts have been terminated. Mershon's business empire depended on human logistics networks. Human ships carried goods between alien worlds more efficiently than anyone else. Human merchants had established trade routes that connected distant systems. Without them, commerce began to slow. "Contact their replacement companies," Mershon ordered. "Someone must be taking over their routes." "Sir, there are no replacement companies. The humans built these networks themselves. No other species has the infrastructure to handle this volume of trade." On Earth, President In-Ho Moon stood in the Situation Room deep beneath Sol. Holographic displays showed the status of Operation Silent Departure. Every human civilian had been evacuated from alien space. Every military vessel had returned to human-controlled systems. Every diplomatic mission had been closed. General Taesung Cho, commander of the Silent Fleet, reported from his flagship in the outer solar system. "All personnel have been accounted for, Mr. President. Total evacuation time, 72 hours. The aliens never saw us coming," President Moon nodded. For decades, Earth had prepared for this possibility. Every human colony beyond the traditional expansion zone had been built with rapid evacuation in mind. Ships designed to look like ordinary cargo vessels could transport thousands of people at once. Hidden bases in deep space provided staging areas for the largest migration in human history. "Phase 2 is authorized," President Moon said quietly. Doctor Bo Young Choi activated her console. She had spent 20 years designing the infrastructure that made this possible. "Stealth protocols are active. All human vessels are running silent. Long-range sensors will show empty space where our fleets used to be." The technology was elegant in its simplicity. Human ships didn't turn invisible. They simply looked like background radiation on alien sensors. Massive fleets could move through space undetected as long as they maintained proper formation and energy discipline, Commander Dong Hyen-yoon managed the intelligence operation from a hidden base in the asteroid belt. His teams monitored alien communications, tracking their responses to humanity's disappearance. "They're confused," he reported. "Some think we're hiding. Others believe we've retreated to Earth. None of them understand what we're really doing." What humanity was really doing would have terrified the aliens if they had known. The evacuation was just the beginning. While alien fleets celebrated their victory by claiming empty human facilities, the real human civilization was already moving. Beyond their reach, hidden shipyards in the dark between star systems came online. Colonies that had been disguised as research stations revealed their true purpose. The humans hadn't been expanding slowly because they were cautious. They had been expanding slowly because they didn't want to alarm their neighbors. Now that diplomacy had failed, there was no reason to hold back. Engineer Minsu Kwak stood on the observation deck of Construction Platform 7, watching automated systems assemble a new class of human vessel. The ship was larger than anything the aliens had in their databases, built with technology they didn't know humans possessed. "How many more?" he asked his supervisor. 300 in this batch," came the reply. "Platform 12 is building the heavy cruisers. Platform 23 handles the carriers. By year's end, we'll have more ships than the Vorthan Empire." The ships weren't just numerous, they were advanced. Human technology had always been ahead of galactic standard, but humans had deliberately held back to avoid triggering an arms race. Now those restrictions were lifted. Captain Wu Jin-han piloted a scout ship through the outer reaches of former Quillen space. His mission was simple: observe and record. The Quillen Collective was trying to expand into territory they thought humans had abandoned. "Contact ahead," his sensor officer reported. "Quillen Exploration Fleet, 12 ships, heading for the Arcturus system. Let them see us," Captain Han ordered. Brief sensor contact, then fade to background. His ship appeared on Quillen sensors for exactly 3 seconds before vanishing again. Long enough to be detected, not long enough to be identified. The Quillen fleet would report contact with an unknown vessel, adding to their growing paranoia about human activities. The psychological effect was deliberate. Humans appeared just often enough to remind the aliens that they were still out there, still watching, still capable of going anywhere they wanted. But they never stayed long enough. For meaningful contact, Dr. Myung-song studied the economic data flowing into her analysis center. "Commerce is down 30% in former human trade zones," she reported to her team. "The Murtai are trying to compensate, but they don't have enough ships. Transit times have doubled on major routes. What about medical supplies?" asked her assistant. "Critical shortages on 17 worlds. Human pharmaceutical companies provided specialized treatments for conditions that only affect certain alien species. Without human research, those treatments will run out within 6 months." The galaxy was learning that humans hadn't just been participants in galactic civilization. They had been essential support systems that other species had taken for granted. Like pulling a cornerstone from an arch. Removing humans caused unexpected structural damage throughout the galaxy. Intelligence reports reaching alien capitals painted a disturbing picture. Humans weren't hiding on Earth waiting for the storm to pass. They were active, organized, and apparently more numerous than anyone had realized. Scanner contacts suggested human fleets moving through unexplored regions, but every attempt to investigate ended the same way. The humans simply weren't there when alien ships arrived. The victory celebration that had lasted months began to feel hollow. The aliens had demanded that humans leave, and humans had left. But somehow, their absence felt more threatening than their presence ever had. The silence where human voices used to be grew louder every day. 6 months after the great victory, trade mogul Mershon stared at reports that made his tentacles quiver with worry. His vast commercial empire was crumbling, and he couldn't understand why. The numbers painted a clear picture of disaster, but the cause remained hidden in the details. "Explain this to me again," he demanded, pointing at the holographic display floating above his desk. Red indicators marked trade routes throughout Murtai space. "Why are our shipping costs up 200%? His chief advisor, a nervous Murtai named Dillahan, consulted his data tablet with shaking hands. "Sir, the humans used to patrol these routes with their security fleets. They kept the pirates away without charging us anything. They said it was good business practice to protect trade. So hire more security. We tried, sir. The Vorthan Empire charges triple what human protection used to cost, and they're not as effective. 3 merchant convoys were attacked last week despite Vorthan escorts." Merchant's business sense told him there was more to this story. "What about the shipping schedules?" "That's worse, sir. Human cargo vessels could make the run from Centauri to Vega in 4 days. Our fastest ships take 8 days for the same route. The humans had some kind of engine technology that we never understood." The truth was spreading throughout Murtai. Space like a slow poison. Human merchants hadn't just been competitors. They had been the foundation that made interstellar commerce possible. Their ships moved faster, carried more cargo, and operated more efficiently than anything else in the galaxy. Without them, the carefully balanced system of galactic trade was falling apart. In Quellan space, Prime Intellect Crix faced a different crisis. The collective's rapid technological advancement had ground to a complete halt. For the first time in centuries, their researchers were making no progress on critical projects. "Status report on project synthesis," Crix commanded through the neural link. The response came from Dr. Valkyrie, the collective's leading scientist. "We have encountered fundamental problems with the quantum matrix assembly. The theoretical framework appears to be incomplete." "Elaborate." "The research we obtained from human sources contained only partial data. We assumed we could derive the missing information through analysis, but the mathematical principles involved are beyond our current understanding." This was deeply troubling news. The Quellan Collective prided itself on superior intelligence and analytical ability. For years, they had traded with humans for access to theoretical research, always believing they could improve upon human discoveries through their collective mental processing power. "What percentage of our recent advances were based on human research?" Crix asked, though the collective's perfect memory already knew the answer. 67% of our technological progress in the last decade incorporated human theoretical frameworks. Without access to the complete data sets, we cannot continue development in these areas. The implications rippled through the collectives. Shared consciousness. They had been building on human foundations without realizing it. Now those foundations were gone, and their magnificent structure of knowledge was cracking. Worse still, the humans had apparently known this would happen. Analysis of the abandoned human research facilities revealed a disturbing pattern. Every piece of equipment left behind was functional but incomplete. Critical components were missing. Essential data files had been deleted. The humans had left behind enough to tantalize, but not enough to actually use. In Vorthan space, High Commander Veltar faced his own growing crisis. His warriors were the finest fighters in the galaxy, but they were not administrators. Governing the territories they had claimed from human withdrawal was proving impossible. "Report from Kepler Station," announced his intelligence officer. "Finally." "How much or have we extracted?" "None, sir. We cannot operate the mining equipment. The human systems require biological authorization we cannot provide. Our engineers estimate it would take 3 years to reverse engineer their technology enough to restart operations." Veltar's forearms clenched into fists. "What about the other facilities?" "Similar problems throughout the sector. Human infrastructure is specifically designed to work only for humans. We can occupy their buildings, but we cannot use their technology." The Vorthan Empire had built its power on conquest and military might. They took what they wanted from weaker species and bent others to their will through force. But humans had left them nothing to take except empty buildings and locked computers. More disturbing were the reports from his patrol fleets. Vorthan ships were dying in sectors that had been perfectly safe for decades. Pirates, raiders, and territorial disputes that humans had quietly managed were now erupting into violence. "How many ships have we lost this month?" Veltar asked. 17 vessels, sir. Most of pirate attacks in areas humans used to patrol. Deploy additional security fleets. Sir, we would need to triple our patrol ships to cover the territory. Humans protected with 1/10 the number of vessels. Their patrol patterns were incredibly efficient. Our analysts cannot determine how they achieved such comprehensive coverage with so few ships. The answer was simple, though the Vorthans didn't understand it. Human patrol fleets hadn't relied solely on military presence. They had built networks of relationships with local populations, intelligence sources, and even reformed criminals. When humans offered protection, they created systems that prevented problems instead of just responding to them. Dr. Kethval worked frantically in his laboratory on Meridian Prime, trying to synthesize the medical compounds his people desperately needed. The Kethmari suffered from a genetic condition that affected their respiratory systems. For 20 years, human pharmaceutical companies had provided treatments that allowed his people to live normal lives. Any progress? Asked his assistant. None, Dr. Kethval admitted. The human research notes show the basic chemical formula, but the manufacturing process requires techniques we don't possess. The molecular assembly must be precise to the atomic level, or the compound becomes toxic instead of therapeutic. His people weren't the only ones facing medical crises. 17 different species throughout the galaxy depended on human-developed treatments for various genetic disorders, environmental adaptations, and age-related conditions. Human medical researchers had freely shared their discoveries, asking only for tissue samples and genetic data to help them understand alien biology. Now those research programs were gone. The humans had taken not just their scientists, but their entire database of alien medical information. Decades of collaborative research had vanished overnight. How long will our current supplies last? The assistant asked. 4 months, maybe. 5, if we ration carefully. After that, Dr. Kethval didn't finish the sentence. After that, his people would begin dying from a condition that had been easily treatable. Just months ago, President In-Ho Moon studied the intelligence reports flowing into Earth's command center. The galaxy was experiencing exactly the kind of systemic breakdown that human analysts had predicted. Status report from Intelligence Division, he requested. Commander the Jinkang activated her holographic display. Economic collapse accelerating in all 3 major power blocks. The Murtai Federation has lost control of 30% of their trade routes. Quillen research programs have stagnated. Vorthan expansion has stopped as they struggle to manage territories they've already claimed. What about the medical situation? Dr. So-Young Lim stepped forward. 17 species are facing critical shortages of treatments we developed for them. The Kethmari situation is worst, but others will follow. We estimate significant population impacts within 8 months. President Moon felt a weight in his chest. Recommendations? The humanitarian option would be to resume medical aid programs, Dr. Lim said carefully. We could provide emergency supplies through neutral parties. And the strategic option? President Moon asked, though he already knew the answer. Commander Kong consulted her notes. Continue the pressure. Every crisis they face reinforces their dependence on human cooperation. When they're ready to negotiate as equals instead of conquerors, they'll find us more receptive. And if they choose military action instead, Admiral Haiyan Suru had been quiet until now, then they'll discover what happens when humans stop. Pretending to be weak, the numbers supported his confidence. Human shipyards were producing vessels at a rate that would have shocked the galaxy. Advanced technology that humans had kept hidden was being deployed throughout their growing fleet. Colonies in previously unexplored regions were revealing their true scale and capabilities. Phase 3 authorization? Admiral Ru asked. President Moon considered the question carefully. Phase 3 would make humanity's true strength visible to their enemies. There would be no going back after that? Not yet. Let them struggle a little longer. Sometimes the anticipation of power is more effective than power itself. Captain Wu Jin Han received new orders as his scout ship patrolled the borders of human space. Increase visibility operations, the message read. Let them see us, but don't let them catch us. For the next week, his ship appeared on sensors throughout 3 different star systems. Always briefly, always at maximum detection range, always. Gone before alien vessels could respond. Each sighting was reported up the chain of command, adding to the growing. Deep in the void between star systems, where no planets orbited and no trade routes passed, something impossible was taking shape. The darkness held secrets that would have terrified the galaxy if they had known to look, Captain Seung Min Kwan stood on the bridge of the HSS Silent Thunder, watching his sensors track the approach of a Vorthan patrol fleet. The enemy ships moved in standard formation, sweeping the area for signs of human activity. They had no idea they were flying directly through the middle of the largest human fleet ever assembled. "Contact in 30 minutes, his tactical officer reported. 12 Vorthan heavy cruisers, standard search pattern. "Signal the fleet," Captain Kwan ordered. "Maintain stealth protocol. Let them pass." Around his ship, invisible to enemy sensors, 300 human vessels held their positions. The technology that made this possible was decades ahead of anything in the galactic database. While alien scientists struggled with theories, human engineers had been building practical applications in secret. The Vorthan ships passed within a few kilometers of human vessels without detecting anything unusual. Their sensors showed empty space where a fleet capable of conquering star systems floated in perfect silence. "They're clear," the tactical officer announced. "Resume patrol. And send a message to Admiral Rue. Tell him the Vorthans are getting bolder. They're pushing deeper into what they think is empty space." What the Vorthans didn't know was that there was no empty space anymore. Human civilization had grown beyond the boundaries the galaxy thought it knew. The 3 billion humans who had vanished from alien sensors hadn't gone into hiding. They had gone into expansion mode. Dr. Haijin Beek reviewed the latest survey reports from her command post on Construction Platform Alpha. The massive structure was built inside a hollow asteroid, invisible from the outside, but containing facilities that rivaled major planetary installations. "Status report from the outer colonies," she requested. Her aide, Engineer Minho Park, consulted the latest data streams. Colony ships have established permanent settlements in 47 systems beyond the galactic rim. Each site is self-sufficient and equipped with full industrial capability. Population transfer continues at planned rates. Defense installations? 90% complete. Each colony has defensive platforms that exceed Vorthan military capabilities. The automated systems alone could hold off a major attack fleet. Dr. Beek nodded with satisfaction. For 50 years, human exploration ships had been mapping regions of space that other species ignored. While aliens focused on star systems with existing civilizations or obvious resources, humans had quietly claimed the vast territories that lay between established powers. The galaxy thought in terms of individual star systems and direct travel routes. Humans thought in terms of three-dimensional space and strategic depth. They had been building a parallel civilization in the dark corners of the galaxy, always staying just outside the notice of their neighbors. Now that civilization was revealing its true scale, hidden shipyards produced vessels at a rate that would have seemed impossible. Secret research facilities developed technology that made galactic standard equipment look primitive. Training centers prepared forces for scenarios the galaxy couldn't imagine on Earth. Admiral Haiyan Su-Ru studied the tactical situation from his command center in the Pacific Ocean. The room was buried so deep that even nuclear weapons couldn't reach it. Holographic displays showed the real disposition of human forces throughout the galaxy. Intelligence update from Captain Wu Jinhen. His aide announced. Captain Han's image appeared on the main screen, transmitted from his scout ship at the edge of Quillen space. "Sir, the collective is mobilizing their exploration fleets. They're sending ships to investigate energy readings in Sector 7. "What kind of energy readings?" "The kind that Construction Platform 12 gives off when it's building heavy cruisers," Captain Han said with a slight smile. "They don't know what they're detecting, but they know it's not natural." Admiral Rue considered the implications. "Are they likely to find the platform?" "Not unless we want them to. Platform 12 can relocate on 12 hours' notice." But sir, this raises the question of whether we're ready for limited contact. The moment Admiral Rue had been waiting for. Phase 4 of humanity's response plan involved controlled revelation of their capabilities. Let the aliens discover pieces of the truth, but not the whole picture. Create fear through partial knowledge. Signal Platform 12. Prepare for controlled contact scenario. Let the Quillen ships detect something, but nothing that reveals our full capabilities. Dr. So Young Len monitored the operation from her research vessel hidden in the asteroid belt of the same system. When the Quillen exploration fleet arrived, they would find evidence of human activity, but not human presence. Deployment pattern Alpha is ready, she reported. We'll leave behind enough technological samples to keep their scientists busy for months, but nothing they can actually reproduce. What about the energy signature? We'll give them a glimpse of a human vessel, then have it disappear into hyperspace. Let them think we're using the area as a temporary staging point. The plan worked perfectly. The Quillen ships detected advanced energy patterns, found abandoned equipment that demonstrated impossible technology, and caught sensor readings of a human vessel before it vanished. They returned to collective space with more questions than answers. Prime Intellect Crix processed the report with growing unease. The technological samples the exploration fleet had recovered showed engineering principles that shouldn't have been possible. The energy readings suggested power generation capabilities that exceeded anything in the collective's databases. Analysis of human vessel specifications, Crix commanded. The sensor data indicates a ship approximately 800 meters in length, but the energy output suggests something much larger. Either human power generation is incredibly efficient, or the vessel we detected was much bigger than it appeared. How much bigger? Possibly 3,000 to 4,000 meters? But a ship that size would show up clearly on our sensors. The only way to hide something that large would be with stealth technology beyond our current understanding. The implications were disturbing. If humans had developed stealth capabilities that advanced, how many ships might be operating undetected in collective space? How long had they been watching Quillen activities without being seen? Similar realizations were dawning in other alien capitals. The Murtai Federation received reports of mysterious cargo vessels appearing briefly on sensors before vanishing. These ships seemed to carry massive amounts of rare materials, suggesting industrial operations somewhere in the darkness between known systems. Trade. Mogul Merchant studied the reports with growing paranoia. Where are they getting these resources? Our surveys show no major mining operations in the regions where these ships were detected. Sir, human mining technology was always more advanced than ours. They might be extracting resources from sources we can't detect, his aide suggested. Or they're mining in places we never thought to look, Merchant realized. The deep asteroid fields, the outer system debris, the areas we consider worthless. He was closer to the truth than he knew. Human mining operations weren't limited to planets and obvious asteroid belts. They had developed technology to extract resources from cosmic dust, solar winds, and the trace materials scattered throughout interstellar space. What other species saw as empty void, humans saw as a vast reservoir of raw materials. The Vorthan Empire faced the most direct revelation. High Commander Veltar was leading a patrol fleet through what intelligence reports claimed was a human-infiltrated sector when his sensors detected something that made his warrior's blood run cold. Contact bearing 27 Mark IV, his sensor officer announced. Energy signature indicates a vessel of unknown configuration. Put it on screen. The view screen showed a ship unlike anything in Vorthan databases. It was clearly human in design, but it was massive. The vessel stretched over 2 kilometers in length, bristling with weapon systems that looked disturbingly advanced. They're hailing us, the communications officer reported. Put them through. A human face appeared on screen. Commander Dong Hyen Yoon looked calm and confident, showing no fear of the Vorthan battle fleet that outnumbered his single ship 12 to 1. Vorthan vessels, you are in human territorial space. Please adjust your course and depart immediately. Veltar S. Four arms spread in a gesture of dominance. Human, you are the one who must depart. This sector is unclaimed space according to galactic law. Galactic law no longer applies to human space, Commander Yoon replied calmly. We withdrew from the Galactic Council, remember? Our territories are governed by human law now. You claim. This entire sector? We claim much more than this sector. You're currently 17 light years inside human space. I'm giving you the opportunity to leave peacefully. Veltar's tactical display showed no other human ships in the area. One vessel against 12 was either suicide or supreme confidence. You threaten a Vorthan battle fleet with a single ship? Commander Yoon smiled. Who said anything about a single ship? The sensor screens exploded with new contacts. Human vessels appeared from nowhere, materializing around the Vorthan fleet like hunters surrounding prey. Sleek destroyers, massive cruisers, and ship configurations. High Commander Veltar sat in his private chambers aboard the flagship, staring at intelligence reports that made no sense. The data painted a picture of human capabilities that seemed impossible, yet his own eyes had witnessed the truth. 3 days had passed since his encounter with the human fleet, and each new report made the situation worse. Sir, Reconnaissance Fleet Talon reports similar contacts in the Rigel sector, his aide announced. Human vessels appeared from nowhere, escorted them to the border, then vanished. Veltar's four hands clenched into fists. How many ships? 57 confirmed contacts, but sensors indicate there may have been more we couldn't detect. The numbers were staggering. In just 1 week, Vorthan forces had encountered over 200 human vessels in areas they thought were empty space. Either humans had built the largest fleet in galactic history, or they were moving the same ships around fast enough to create that illusion. Analysis of human technology? His chief engineer, a brilliant Vorthan named Kethter, activated a holographic display. Their stealth capabilities are beyond anything in our database. The ships we detected were only visible because they wanted to be seen. Our best estimates suggest they could hide 10 times as many vessels in the same space. What about their weapons? Unknown, sir. They never fired a shot, but the energy signatures suggest weapon systems that operate on principles we don't understand. Power output readings indicate they could engage our entire battle fleet simultaneously. Veltar stood and walked to the massive viewport that dominated one wall of his chambers. Beyond the transparent metal, stars wheeled slowly as his ship maintained orbit around the Vorthan homeworld. Somewhere out there, human ships moved unseen through space that his people had considered their own. How did we miss this? He asked quietly. Sir, the humans were careful to limit their visible expansion, Kethter explained. They followed galactic law, respected established borders, and never displayed capabilities that would alarm other species. We thought we knew their true strength because they showed us only what they wanted us to see. And now? Now they're showing us what they kept hidden. Sir, our intelligence estimates suggest human population might be 10 times larger than galactic records indicate. Their industrial capacity could dwarf the combined output of all 3 major powers. The implications were terrifying. The Vorthan Empire had built its power on military superiority. They conquered weaker species and intimidated stronger ones through displays of force. But humans had quietly built a civilization that made Vorthan military might look insignificant. On the other side of the galaxy, Prime Intellect Crix faced similar revelations. The Quillen Collective prided itself on perfect information processing and logical analysis. Yet their understanding of human capabilities had been completely wrong. Status of deep space surveys? Crix commanded through the neural link. Dr. Valkyrie S. Response carried undertones of confusion that rippled through the collective consciousness. We have detected industrial activity in 47 systems previously thought to be uninhabited. Energy signatures suggest massive construction projects, but we cannot get close enough to investigate without being detected and escorted away. Human! Escort procedures? Polite but firm. Human ships appear, transmit a simple message about territorial boundaries, and maintain position until our vessels withdraw. No threats, no aggressive behavior, but absolute enforcement of their claimed space. The collective had attempted to map human territory using long-range sensors and deep space probes. What they found defied their understanding of galactic geography. Human space wasn't limited to the star systems they had openly colonized. It extended in a three-dimensional web throughout regions the galaxy had ignored. Analysis of human expansion patterns, Crix requested. The data suggests humans have been conducting secret exploration for over a century, Dr. Velcry reported. They established hidden colonies in areas other species considered worthless. They built supply bases in deep space. They created a parallel civilization that exists in the spaces between our civilizations. Population estimates? Between 8 and 12 billion. Possibly more if their hidden colonies are larger than our projections indicate. The number sent shock waves through the collective consciousness. Official galactic records listed human population at 3 billion. If the true number was 12 billion, then two-thirds of humanity had been living beyond galactic knowledge. For decades, industrial capacity? Sufficient to build and maintain fleets larger than anything in galactic history. Their shipyards appear to be hidden inside asteroids, rogue planets, and artificial structures in deep space. We count at least 30 major construction facilities, but there are probably more we haven't detected. In multi-space, trade mogul Mercian faced economic collapse as the true scope of human capabilities became clear. His commercial empire had depended on human cooperation without realizing it. Now that cooperation was gone and nothing could replace it. Status of alternate shipping arrangements? He asked his chief administrator. Unsuccessful, sir. No other species has the logistics capability to handle our shipping volume. Transit times have increased by 400%. Shipping costs have risen by 600%. Our profit margins have disappeared. Mercian-esque tentacles writhed with frustration. The Murtai Federation controlled the galaxy's most important trade routes, but those routes were useless without ships to use them. Human merchants had provided the transportation network that made galactic commerce possible. What about purchasing ships from other species? We've tried, sir. Vorthan military vessels are too slow and carry too little cargo. Quillan ships are efficient but prohibitively expensive. No other species builds commercial vessels on the scale we need. The humans? Sir, we expelled them from our space. They're not responding to communication attempts. The cruel irony wasn't lost on Mercian. His people had the best trade routes in the galaxy, but no way to use them. The humans had built the most efficient shipping fleet in galactic history, but no longer needed alien trade routes. They had their own commerce networks in their hidden territories. Reports reached his desk of human cargo vessels moving through deep space, carrying massive loads of rare materials between colonies no one knew existed. These ships operated on schedules that suggested regular trade relationships spanning hundreds of light years. How long before our economy stabilizes? Mercian asked. Sir, it won't stabilize, it will collapse. We estimate complete economic breakdown within 18 months unless we can restore human shipping services. President In-Ho Moon stood in the secure briefing room beneath the Blue House in Seoul, reviewing the global situation with his senior advisors. The plan was working better than they had hoped. The galaxy was learning to fear human capabilities without understanding their full extent. Status report from Admiral Ru. He requested. Admiral Haiyan Suru activated his display, showing the deployment of human forces throughout their expanded territory. Phase 4 complete, Mr. President. We've established contact with all three major powers under controlled circumstances. They're beginning to understand that our capabilities exceed their estimates. Casualties? None, sir. Our forces have orders to avoid conflict unless directly attacked. So far, alien fleets have chosen to withdraw when confronted with our superior numbers and technology. What about Phase 5? Dr. Haijin Beek stepped forward. The diplomatic preparation is complete, sir. We're ready to make contact if you authorize it. Phase 5 was the most delicate part of the plan. After months of demonstrating their power, humans would offer one final opportunity for peaceful coexistence. But this time, the negotiations would be between equals. The galaxy would have to accept humans as they were, not as the aliens wanted them to be. Intelligence assessment of alien readiness for negotiation? President Moon asked. Commander the Jinkang consulted her analysis. The Vorthan Empire is experiencing internal political pressure. Their military leaders are divided between those who want to fight and those who recognize they can't win. The Quillen Collective is paralyzed by the logical impossibility of their situation. The Murtai Federation is facing economic collapse. Are they ready to accept human terms? Unknown, sir, but they're certainly ready to listen. The question is whether they can accept that humans are no longer the junior partner in any relationship. President Moon considered the risks. Humanity had spent a year building to this moment. They had demonstrated their power, revealed their capabilities, and shown the galaxy what life was like without human cooperation. Now came the test of whether their former neighbors had learned anything from the experience. Signal Ambassador Kim, he decided. Tell him to prepare for one final diplomatic mission. Ambassador Hyunwoo Kim received the orders aboard his diplomatic vessel in the outer solar system. After a year of silence, he would return to Nexus Prime, but this time he wouldn't be coming to listen to alien demands. He would be coming to dictate human terms. The message he would carry was simple. Humanity had tried friendship and been rejected. They had tried withdrawal and been ignored. Now they offered one last chance at coexistence. But this time, the relationship would be based on mutual respect and recognition of human sovereignty. Dr. Jin-Ho Lee worked alongside Ambassa. The Great Hall of Nexus Prime looked smaller than Ambassador Hyunwoo Kim remembered. 18 months ago, this same chamber had felt vast and intimidating, filled with hostile alien voices demanding human submission. Now it seemed cramped and desperate, populated by species who had learned to fear the silence they had demanded. Kim walked down the central aisle with measured steps, his diplomatic immunity badge gleaming under the artificial lights. Behind him, Captain Nari Park wore her new admiral's uniform with quiet pride. Dr. Jin-Ho Lee carried a data case that contained information that would reshape galactic understanding of human capabilities. The representatives who filled the curved seats looked different than they had 18 months ago. Where once there had been confident aggression, now there was nervous uncertainty. The Vorthan delegation sat rigid with military discipline, but their eyes held the knowledge of defeat. The Quillen Collective's crystal representatives flickered, with the rapid data processing of minds trying to solve an impossible problem. The Murtai Federation's tentacled forms coiled with the tension of economic desperation. Hi. Commander Veltar watched the human delegation approach with 4 arms crossed over his massive chest. His purple skin had developed stress marks that showed his species' equivalent of aging. The confident warrior who had demanded human submission was gone, replaced by a military leader who had looked into the abyss and seen his own limitations. Prime. Intellect Crix's crystalline form pulsed with subdued light patterns. The collective's perfect logic had been shattered by the discovery that their fundamental assumptions about human capabilities had been completely wrong. For a species that prided itself on superior analysis, the revelation of human deception was a wound that cut to their core identity. Trade mogul Mershon S. once sleek form showed the physical effects of economic stress. His blue tentacles had lost their healthy shimmer, and his floating chair moved with less grace than before. The commercial empire that had made him the most powerful Murtai in history was crumbling, and everyone in the hall knew it. Ambassador Kim reached the central podium and placed his hands on the speaking surface. The hall fell silent with an intensity that had nothing to do with respect and everything to do with fear. These aliens had learned what human silence could accomplish. They were terrified of what human words might do. Representatives of the Galactic Council, Kim began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. 18 months ago, I stood in this hall and listened to your demands. You told us we were a threat to galactic stability. You insisted we accept limitations on our expansion, surrender our sovereignty, and submit to your judgment. When we refused, you celebrated what you called a great victory." He paused, letting his words sink in. The silence stretched uncomfortably. Long, several alien representatives shifted in their seats, waiting for him to continue. "Today, I return not to resume those negotiations, but to inform you of the new reality. The species you dismissed as primitive has revealed capabilities that exceed your combined military and economic power. The expansion you feared has continued beyond your ability to monitor or control. The threat you tried to eliminate has become the dominant force in this galaxy." High Commander Veltar could remain silent no longer. His voice boomed across the hall with forced bravado. "Human, you speak of dominance, but we see only one ship. Where is this great fleet you claim to command?" "Ambassador." Kim smiled. "Admiral Park, please provide our hosts with a tactical demonstration." Admiral Nari Park activated a communication device at her belt. "Silent Thunder, this is Admiral Park, execute Protocol 7. The main viewing screen at the front of the hall activated, showing the space around Nexus Prime. At first, the display showed empty space with only the usual traffic of diplomatic vessels and trade ships. Then, one by one, human vessels materialized on screen. First came the escort destroyers that had accompanied the diplomatic mission, their sleek hulls reflecting starlight as their stealth systems deactivated. Then larger ships appeared, cruisers, bristling with weapon systems that alien databases couldn't identify, carriers launching fighter squadrons that moved with impossible precision, and finally the massive dreadnoughts that dwarfed anything in the Galactic Fleet Registry. Within minutes, the space around Nexus Prime was filled with over 300 human vessels. The greatest concentration of military power in galactic history had been sitting invisible around the most important diplomatic station in known space. "How long have they been there?" whispered a representative from the Kethmari delegation. "They've been there since our ships entered the system 3 days ago," Admiral Park replied calmly. "We don't travel without adequate protection anymore." The display showed human ships in perfect formation, maintaining position with precision that demonstrated complete control of the tactical situation. Any military analyst in the hall could see that the human fleet could have destroyed Nexus Prime and its defenses within minutes if they had chosen to do so. Prime Intellect Crix's crystalline form flickered rapidly as the collective processed the implications. The stealth technology required for such concealment should be impossible given our understanding of human capabilities. "Your understanding was incomplete," Dr. Lee said, stepping forward. "For over a century, humanity has deliberately limited the technology we displayed to other species. We didn't want to trigger an arms race or create the fear that would lead to exactly the situation we faced 18 months ago." He activated his data display, showing holographic representations of human technology that made alien science look primitive. "These are the real specifications of human capabilities. Power generation systems that exceed your theoretical maximums. Faster than light travel that makes your best ships look stationary. Manufacturing techniques that allow us to build entire fleets in the time it takes you to construct a single vessel." The technological gap was staggering. Every display showed human science decades ahead of galactic standard. But the most shocking revelation wasn't the technology itself, but the timeline that showed when humans had achieved these advances. "This data indicates you possessed this technology before first contact with our species," Crix observed, its voice carrying undertones of disbelief. "Correct," Dr. Lee confirmed. "When humanity joined galactic civilization, we were already more advanced than any species we encountered. We chose to appear less capable because we believed in the value of peaceful coexistence." Trade mogul Mercian S. tentacles writhed with agitation. "Why reveal this now? What do you want from us?" Ambassador Kim returned to the podium. 18 months ago, you demanded we accept our place as a junior species in galactic civilization. You wanted us to limit our expansion, surrender our sovereignty, and submit to alien oversight. We rejected those terms and withdrew from galactic society. In our absence, you have learned the true cost of human cooperation. Your economies have collapsed without our logistics networks. Your research has stagnated without our theoretical frameworks. Your security has crumbled without our patrol fleets maintaining order in the territories between your empires. The accusations hit their targets with devastating accuracy. Every species in the hall had experienced the consequences of human withdrawal. The galaxy had been built on a foundation of human cooperation that other species had taken for granted. But we have not been idle during our withdrawal, Kim continued. Human civilization has expanded beyond anything you imagined possible. We now control territory that spans regions you never knew existed. Our population has grown to numbers that dwarf your species combined. Our industrial capacity exceeds anything in galactic history. He activated a new display showing the true extent of human space. The map revealed human colonies scattered throughout vast regions of the galaxy, connected by shipping routes that bypassed all alien territory. It was a parallel civilization that existed in the spaces between established powers. This is impossible, High Commander Veltar protested. Our scouts would have detected expansion on this scale. Your scouts detected what we allowed them to detect, Admiral Park replied. Human exploration vessels have been mapping unexplored regions for over 2 centuries. We built colonies in areas you considered worthless, established supply bases. In regions you ignored, and created an entire civilization in the darkness between your stars. The revelation hit the alien representatives like a physical blow. They had thought they were negotiating with a minor species seeking acceptance in galactic society. Instead, they had been confronting a superpower that had been hiding its strength for generations. What are your terms? Asked a representative from the Nixari delegation, her voice barely above a whisper. Our terms are simple, Ambassador Kim replied. Recognition of human sovereignty over all territories we claim. Acceptance of human equality in all galactic affairs. Cessation of all attempts to limit human expansion or development. And most importantly, acknowledgement that humanity will never again submit to alien oversight of any kind. And if we refuse? High Commander Veltar asked, though his voice carried none of its former authority. Then you will continue to experience the consequences of human absence, Kim replied calmly. Your economies will collapse, your research will stagnate, your security will crumble. And human. 6 months after the historic negotiations at Nexus Prime, the galaxy looked like a different place. Trade routes that had been empty now hummed with activity as human shipping vessels resumed their operations under new agreements. Research programs, stagnated for over a year, began producing breakthroughs as human scientists shared selective discoveries. Most importantly, the balance of power had shifted permanently. Admiral Nari Park stood on the observation deck of the newly commissioned HSS Unity, watching human and alien vessels work together in the orbital shipyards above Kepler Station. The facility that High Commander Veltar had once tried to claim now operated under joint human-alien management, though everyone understood who really controlled it. Status report from the Vorthan liaison, her aide requested, Commander Teho. Kim activated his communication system. General Kether reports that his engineering teams have successfully integrated human power systems into 3 Vorthan heavy cruisers. The efficiency improvements exceed their projections by 40%. It was a perfect example of the new relationship. The Vorthan Empire needed human technology to modernize their fleet, and humans were willing to provide it under carefully controlled licensing agreements. But the aliens would never receive the complete technical specifications that would allow them to reproduce human advances independently. What about the training programs? 17 Vorthan officers are completing advanced tactical courses at the Terra Naval Academy. They're learning human fleet coordination techniques, but only the ones we've approved for sharing. Admiral Park nodded with satisfaction. The new agreements gave humanity enormous leverage over alien military development. Every species that wanted access to human technology had to accept human oversight of how that technology was used. It was the reverse of what the aliens had tried to impose 18 months ago on the bridge of the QCS synthesis prime intellect. Crix monitored the restoration of Quillen research programs. The collective had been forced to admit that much of their recent scientific progress had depended on incomplete human theoretical frameworks. Now, they had access to the complete data sets, but only under agreements that gave humans significant control over Quillen research directions. Analysis of cooperative research efficiency gains. Crix commanded through the neural link. Dr. Valkyrie's response carried undertones of frustration that rippled through the collective consciousness. Research productivity has increased by 300% since human cooperation resumed. However, human oversight requirements limit our independence in selecting research priorities. Acceptable constraints given the alternative? Logical. Conclusion: yes. The benefits of human cooperation outweigh the limitations on our autonomy. Recommended action: continue compliance with human requirements. The Quillen Collective's perfect logic led them to an uncomfortable truth. They needed human knowledge more than humans needed Quillen analysis. The relationship that had once seemed like equal sharing discoveries had become one of students learning from teachers. Dr. Hai-Jin Beek reviewed the quarterly reports from her office in the restored diplomatic quarter of Nexus Prime. As Earth's new director of galactic affairs, she managed the complex web of agreements that governed human interaction with other species. Summary of trade restoration progress. She requested from her assistant. Engineer Bo Young Choi consulted her data tablet. Human shipping has resumed operations on all major trade routes. Transit times have returned to pre-withdrawal levels. Commercial agreements now include mandatory technology sharing clauses that give us access to alien manufacturing techniques. What about the exclusive territories? Secure. All three major powers have recognized human sovereignty over our expanded territories. No alien vessels are permitted in Sectors 7 through 15 without human escort. Deep space exploration remains under exclusive human control. The territorial agreements were perhaps the most significant change. Humanity now openly controlled vast regions of space that other species had never known existed. The galaxy's map had been redrawn to reflect the reality of human expansion, and other species were forced to accept that they controlled much smaller portions of known space than they had believed. Status of the monitoring systems? All alien military installations are under continuous observation by human intelligence vessels. Fleet movements are tracked in real time. No major military operation can be conducted without our knowledge. Doctor? Beek smiled at the irony. 18 months ago, the aliens had demanded the right to monitor human activities. Now human surveillance networks watched every move the alien powers made, and there was nothing they could do about it. Trade mogul Mercian worked frantically to rebuild his commercial empire under the new agreements. His floating chair moved between holographic displays showing shipping schedules, cargo manifests, and profit projections that painted a picture of recovery built on human cooperation. Status of the new trade routes, he demanded from his chief. Administrator. Human shipping has agreed to handle 70% of our cargo volume under the revised agreements. Transit times are better than before the withdrawal, and reliability has improved significantly. What about the pricing? More expensive than the old arrangements, but still profitable. The humans charge premium rates for their services, but the efficiency gains offset the increased costs. The truth was more complex than Mercian wanted to admit. Human shipping companies now dominated galactic commerce to a degree that made competition impossible. They offered services that no other species could match at prices that only they could afford to charge. The Murtai Federation had become a client state in everything but name. Analysis of long-term dependency risks, Mercian asked, though he already knew the answer. Sir, the risk is total. Without human shipping, our economy would collapse within weeks. We have no alternative providers for the services they offer. And they know this? Sir, they designed the agreements to ensure we would become dependent on them. The humans have learned from our previous relationship. They're not hiding their strength anymore. President In-ho Moon reviewed the global situation from his expanded command center beneath Seoul. The facility had been enlarged to accommodate the massive increase in human territory and influence. Holographic displays showed human ships moving throughout galactic space, carrying cargo, conducting research, and maintaining the peace that their presence ensured. Assessment of the new stability, he requested from his senior staff. Admiral Hyen-Soo Roo activated his tactical display. Military situation is completely under human control. No alien power has the capability to challenge our fleet strength. Intelligence indicates they understand this and have adjusted their strategic planning accordingly. Economic integration? Dr. Mi Young-song stepped forward with her commercial analysis. Human control of galactic trade is now complete. We handle over 80% of interstellar shipping, control the most efficient manufacturing techniques, and provide the technology that powers most alien infrastructure. They need us more than we need them. What about research and development? Dr. So-Young Lim provided the scientific assessment. Alien research programs are completely dependent on human theoretical frameworks. We share knowledge selectively, maintaining our technological advantage while preventing any species from developing capabilities that could threaten our position. Political stability? Commander the Jin-Kang consulted her intelligence reports. All three major powers have accepted the new order. Internal dissent is minimal because their populations understand the economic consequences of opposing human interests. Some resistance movements exist, but they lack the resources to pose a real threat. President Moon nodded with satisfaction. The plan had worked better than anyone had dared hope. Humanity had transformed itself from a species seeking acceptance to the dominant power in galactic civilization, and they had done it through strategic patience rather than conquest. Recommendations for the next phase? Consolidation, Admiral Roo replied. Continue expanding our territories in unexplored regions while maintaining control over alien activities in established space. Let them handle the day-to-day administration of their territories while we control the systems that really matter. Dr. Beek provided the diplomatic perspective. The aliens are beginning to accept their new status. The younger generation of leaders understands that cooperation with humanity is more profitable than resistance. We should encourage this trend while remaining vigilant for attempts to recreate the old power structures. What about potential threats? None that we can detect, Commander Kong replied. Human military superiority is so overwhelming that no combination of alien powers could challenge us successfully. Our intelligence networks would detect any attempt to organize resistance long before it became dangerous. Captain Wu Jin-han transmitted his report from the edge of human space, where his exploration vessels continued mapping regions beyond alien knowledge. Survey of Sector 23 complete, Mr. President. 17 new systems suitable for colonization, abundant resource deposits, and no signs of existing alien presence. Colonization timeline. First wave colony ships will launch next month. We'll have permanent settlements in all 17 systems within 2 years. Current expansion rate allows us. 5 years had passed since the day Ambassador Han-Woo Kim walked out of Nexus Prime, leaving behind a galaxy that thought it had solved the human problem. Now that same galaxy operated under what historians would call the Terran hegemony, though humans preferred the term cooperative galactic administration. Dr. Jin-Ho Lee stood in his new office overlooking the rebuilt diplomatic quarter of Nexus Prime. As Director of Interspecies Relations, he managed a department that would have been unimaginable a decade ago. Where once humans had pleaded for equal treatment, now they administered the protocols that governed galactic civilization. Daily briefing from the sector administrators? He requested from his aide. Captain Min-ho Park, Admiral Nuri Park's younger brother, activated the holographic displays that showed the current status of human-administered space. Sector 7 reports successful completion of the new colony infrastructure. Population transfers ahead of schedule, with 12 million humans now residing in systems that weren't even